get some instant analysis. Welcome in CBS Sports combat writer Shakiel Mahjouri, the greatest women's MMA fighter of all time, earning redemption in the last fight. Last fight clearly wasn't at full strength, had the bad camp. Her knees bothered her. Peña took advantage. Nunes left her longtime gym, American Top Team, built her own team, her own gym. She restores order in the bantamweight division, Shaq. What a fight. Your reaction to what you saw?
Listen, I'm scheduled for a 6-hour road trip as soon as we wrap here. I had the Red Bull already. Throw it out the window. I am so alert. I am so awake. I am so hyped. You know, it's not often that you see the champion, the winner of the first fight, come in again as an underdog. But that first fight in December was so messy. It was so sloppy. It really felt like Peña sort of overwhelmed Nunes. She may have had the better game plan, but wasn't necessarily the more skilled fighter. I think that was proven correct tonight. Nunes dominating, start to finish, a couple scares here and there, but she also set the record. First woman in UFC history to score 3 knockdowns in a single fight, and she did it in less than 10 minutes.
Shaq, how about in the 4th round with Nunes escaping the armbar? It had looked that Peña had her once again, but she somehow finds a way to slip out of it.
You know, Nunes had so much success on the feet. It was sort of jarring to see her lean so much into the grappling later in the fight, but you know, she was exhausted in that first one. I think she decided it was a great way to sort of measure and reserve the gas tank. But we were talking a little bit about it just before we got on the air. Jon Jones versus Vitor Belfort, UFC 152. Exact same thing. Vitor pushed off the fence, snatched the armbar, and it did some serious damage to Jones's arm, but he managed to wiggle out. I was having complete flashbacks at that moment. Peña pushes off the fence, tight armbar, and you see Nunes desperately trying to wiggle free, but she did it.
Jon Jones ended up winning that fight, and Nunes ends up winning this fight as she regains double champion status. What does this mean for her, and what is next for Nunes?
You know, we've been talking about it. It's always been a question. Valentina Shevchenko, women's flyweight champion. Amanda Nunes, bantamweight, featherweight champion. The first fight, Nunes' favor. The second fight, ultra close. Again, Nunes was given the nod, but there was an impression by many fans and viewers and spectators and analysts that it should have been Shevchenko's fight. Valentina has basically cleared out her division. There's not a whole lot left for Nunes at bantamweight. Shevchenko wants it, so let's do it. Let's get that third fight. I think Shevchenko, you know, the Santos fight was a little bit touch and go with the size disadvantage, but she is in prime form. Nunes is back on top. We don't have a ton of opportunities to make it happen. Sometimes we get these like champ versus champ fights just to say we did it, just to throw some money there. But these two women are, without a doubt, the best in their division. We kind of missed the boat with Anderson Silva and George St. Pierre. They are at their peak. Let's not miss it again. Nunes, Shevchenko, book it.
Yeah, that would be incredible to see once again. I'll be ready and lined up to watch that, and we'll talk about that, and we'll see how that goes down, because that would be incredible. As for Julianna Peña, where does this result leave her?
You know what? We know it was very clearly one-sided. I mean, the scorecards were 50-45, 50-44, and 50-43. What that means is 2 of the judges gave 2 of the rounds on one judge's scorecard and 1 of the rounds on a judge's scorecard to Nunes by a very large margin, more than a competitive round, basically. That being said, she does have the win over Nunes. She took the fight to Nunes and sort of forced the Lioness to play a different kind of game plan. She's got to get a big fight next. Whoever you're sort of teeing up as the next bantamweight contender, I say put her in there with Julianna Peña. And here's the beauty of it. It's 1-1. If Julianna Peña can get a dominant win, this was such a fun fight. It may not have been competitive, but it had drama. It had scares. She nearly pulled off the upset again. I wouldn't mind seeing Peña maybe 1 or 2 fights away from a rematch.
Yeah, it was an incredible fight, but Nunes, in the end, restores order, regains the bantamweight championship. Co-main event also featured a rematch. Brandon Moreno against Kai Kara-France for the interim UFC flyweight title. They previously met at UFC 245 in 2019, with Moreno winning via unanimous decision over Kai Kara-France. And Moreno wins again here via third-round TKO, delivered a beautiful body kick. What's your reaction to how this fight played out?
Oh, man. You know, I wasn't totally in the zone for rounds 1 and 2. They were quite competitive. They were quite close. A lot of leg kicks on either side. I think Moreno had a little bit more sting, but I would have not been upset if you scored those first 2 rounds for either guy. What's the beauty of the drama of MMA is round 3, up until it wasn't, was Kai Kara-France's round. He got that trip early. He, cut a big gash open underneath Moreno's right eye with an elbow, landed some big shots as Moreno was getting back on the feet. But then, the Mexican fans have rallied behind Brandon Moreno in such a big way. And I don't know if there's a demographic on earth that rallies behind their fighters the way Mexico does. And he's got that spirit that we, sort of stereotype Mexican combat sports athletes for having. He is unrelenting. He never backs down. He is what it means to be a fighter. And he took what was the worst moment of that fight for him, poured on the pressure, got the liver kick, swarmed, TKO in round 3. I mean, it's just beautiful to see someone be able to bounce back like that. It speaks volumes to the caliber of fighter that he is.
Yeah, he's a fantastic fighter to watch. One of the fan favorites, whether it's Mexican fans or just MMA fans as a whole. One of the favorite guys to watch when he gets in that octagon. And then just the respect, obviously, that he has for his opponent as well. Now, of course, this sets up a 4th fight against Deiveson Figueiredo. We saw him in the octagon together there at the end. This would set up the undisputed flyweight championship. Draw in the first fight. Moreno won the second, then Figueiredo won the third just back here in January. What's your early prediction for Moreno Figueiredo 4?
Oh, goodness. I'm a sucker for a nice guy, and Moreno's post-fight speech was probably the most wholesome thing you'll see inside or outside of MMA all year. He basically, they brought Deiveson into the cage for a standoff. They've had some bad blood in the past, and Moreno refused to utter a single negative thing about his opponent despite their rivalry. He said, I've got a child at home watching. I want to be a good influence, a good role model. I apologize to you, Deiveson, if I've ever said anything or done anything hurtful. Let's go. And, no mistake. I'm going to come in and I'm going to fight you, but let's do this the right way. Candidly, the dramatic, toxic personality in me likes the drama. And right now, UFC president Dana White said it. There is very few, if any, fighters who are getting the sort of positive crowd reaction that Brandon Moreno is getting. On the flip side, I was at the Fan Expo for International Fight Week, and Deiveson got booed out of the building. That's not a bad thing. That is a very good thing. I'm going to side with the hero closing out what is a historic 4-fight trilogy, or 4-fight series, excuse me. But, I mean, how could you pick when there's a fight that goes draw, win, loss? It's fascinating, and it's such an abnormality in the sport.
One of the best rivalries right now in the UFC. Also on the main card, fan favorite Derek Lewis said he didn't know his opponent Sergey Pavlovich, who entered on a 3-fight win streak, winning all 3 via first-round knockout. Well, now Lewis, who has the most knockouts in UFC history with 13, didn't get to 14 because he knows Pavlovich, who earns a first-round TKO, but not without controversy. Lewis has now lost his last 3 fights in his home state of Texas, all by knockout. Ref stopped the fight after 55 seconds. Lewis none too pleased. And look, Shaq, sometimes we see these fights that they let them go forever, and then sometimes it feels like they call them too quickly. Do you agree with the decision to stop the fight?
I think you probably could have let it go a little bit longer, but I think the calls for robberies and especially the boos of the Dallas crowd, granted, home state, support for Derek Lewis there, but they were booing Pavlovich out of the building. I don't know that was quite warranted. Derek Lewis did pop back to his feet right away. A lot of those final blows were kind of glancing. It was definitely an early stoppage. But what I will say is in that moment, if you're referee Dan Mergliotta, what you saw was Derek Lewis press forward, swing, get countered, and then get bull rushed. Derek Lewis was basically on his heels, swinging for the fences. He was not hitting Pavlovich much, and Pavlovich was landing repeatedly. I think Dan Mergliotta was already considering the stoppage based on how many times Lewis was getting hit clean, and that knockdown was sort of the nail in the coffin. In hindsight, yeah, you probably let the fight go a little bit longer, but I'd also put it out there that I don't know that Derek Lewis is popping up to his feet so quickly if Pavlovich doesn't let off because the referee has intervened.
Well, there you have it. Derek Lewis, again, losing for a 3rd time in his home state of Texas as the ref stops the fight 55 seconds in. But the biggest storyline of the night, Amanda Nunes restoring order in the bantamweight division, regains the championship via unanimous decision over Julianna Peña. CBS Sports combat writer Shakiel Mahjouri breaking down for us here on CBS Sports HQ. Shaq, great stuff. Appreciate the conversation.
Hey, thank you, my man. Enjoy your night. Get some sleep after those fights.
Absolutely. Good stuff there from Shaq. And for all things Combat. Check out Morning Combat with Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell, the award-winning Morning Combat. You can watch the series on YouTube. You can also listen to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Morning Combat. Download and subscribe today, and you know they'll have something to say about Amanda Nunes regaining the Bantamweight Championship.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.